This is an economic tile laying game set in the same world as Role Player and Cartographers, and in this game players are going to be playing as gods, and you're going to be trying to manipulate 5 different factions in order to try and gain the most victory points for yourself. In each round in this game, every player is going to be replenishing their hand back up to 3 tiles, and they're going to be taking turns placing a tile out on the board. And the way the tiles work is they're actually double hex tiles, so you're going to have 2 hexes on a single tile, and they're going to have different terrain types on them. In order to place the tile out on the board, the terrain types on the tile have to match the terrain types on the board in the position that you're placing that tile. Each of the 5 factions in the game will have an associated miniature, and whenever there is a set of tiles out on the board that matches the base for that miniature, you can actually put that miniature out on that area of the board as long as no other miniature has already claimed that region. And a region is defined by a homogeneous group of tiles. And a region is defined by a homogeneous connected group of tiles. And another thing players can do on their turn is decide if they want to buy different faction cards. And there's going to be cards for each faction, and these cards kind of act as a share in the faction because they will have a value and be worth victory points at the end of the game, but they also have different abilities that can be used in battles. And each faction is going to have a couple terrains that it prefers, and whenever tiles are connected to that faction's region with those matching terrains, it's going to allow that faction's value to go up. This is going to make the value of the card more, but it's also going to make purchasing those cards more expensive. So you're going to want to try and anticipate which factions are going to do well and then try to encourage that and get these cards early so that you're spending less and then gaining more. And as players are putting out these different tiles, expanding the different regions on the board for each of the factions, eventually you're going to have 2 regions that are about to bump into each other. And if a player chooses to put a tile in an area that connects 2 different regions, you're actually going to be putting that tile face down, indicating that there is a battle that's going to happen here. And the initial strength that a faction has is going to be tightly related to its current value, but then players can also play their faction cards and the abilities of those faction cards to influence the battle in one way or the other. The only catch here is that any of the cards you play, you're only going to be getting half of them back, so you really don't want to have to play more cards than what it's worth to you. And after all the players have played all the cards that they want, you're going to be revealing them and resolving all their effects in order to determine which faction has won the battle. And that tile that was previously placed upside down is now going to get flipped up, connecting the 2 regions, and then the faction that lost is going to be removed from the region back to the supply, which is going to make this whole area now belong to the faction that won. So this can have some pretty massive effects. And the game continues like this, with players putting out more and more tiles, engaging in different battles and playing their cards until the endgame trigger is reached, and the player with the most victory points at the end of the game wins the game.